Stephen Meet again, another Bullseye Guy podcast. Today, we're going to do an IMO, actually an IMHO, in my humble or honest opinion, is a 2024 outlook. And what I'm going to talk about, I've only got 4 or 5 things. I'm not a big one on predictions. My last big prediction was Bitcoin 100,000. I gave the 10 reasons. I think it'll still get there just when the years that I thought it would get there. But we'll use COVID as an excuse for the interruption of my Bitcoin to 100,000. For 2024, let's look at a couple things. As many of you know, I've been spending a lot more time in Dubai, UAE, United Arab Emirates. And I want to tell a quick story. This is part of my 2024 growth, my 2024 outlook, but also not only that, a kind of a 9-year plan now, not a 10-year. I had a conversation, it was probably 15 months ago with one of the sheikhs there, not the fake sheikhs, but one of the legitimate guys, and the head of his investment side. Again, Dubai UAE is interesting. Dubai doesn't have a lot of money as people think. It's actually a service city. It's almost more like Vegas, where Vegas has money of people that come in, but Vegas is really a service town. And Dubai, to its credit, has done an amazing job becoming really a service tourism city. There's business around it that's growing, but I was asked, Stephen, why are you spending time here? And this is part of my 2024 prediction that's going to continue, but also it was in 2023. And one of the sheikhs said, why are you here, Stephen? You can be anywhere in the world. And I said, I looked at Dubai and the UAE like a good penny stock. I said, you guys are like a great penny stock. And he looked at me for a moment. He was a little offended. I said, no, let me explain. I said, it's easier for a penny stock, right? An OTC, over the counter. It's easier for a penny stock to go from 10 cents to $1 than it is for $100 stock to go to 1,000. And what I meant by that is I compared it to the economies, and I said, let's look at America. And this wasn't this year, it was prior, it was 2022, middle 2022. And I said, if you look at America, America's basically a $100 stock, if we were to do comparisons. America, if it grows 2% a year, we'll be lucky. I said, my guess is we'll do negative, right? Because the economy wasn't doing well. I said, the Dubai UAE region could do 10% a year growth for the next 10 years, right? It's easier to go from 10 cents to $1 than it is to go from $100 to 1,000. And if America and Europe are already $100 stocks, follow me on my comparison there, to go to $1,000, to get a 10x return on something that's already a multi-trillion dollar economy is very difficult. Not picking winners or losers and structural inefficiencies, it's really just hard. They said, oh, okay, well, why do you think that? And this is where, when I look at the region, I think the UAE as a collective region will be the highest growth region in the world for the next 5, 8, 10 years. So that's my 2024 prediction. But why do I say that? Let's look at a couple of things. Number one, Dubai is part of what's called the UAE. For those of you that don't understand that, that is the United Arab Emirates. 7 Emirates. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Rock, I can never say it. The guys, I call it Rock Vegas now because that Emirates is where the casinos are going in. So my joke is Rock Vegas, but it's Ras Al Khaimah. So the point is, there were 7 Emirates that for years and years and years sort of fought with each other. Well, now they're united. Yeah, they still kind of fight and make fun of each other at times. It's interesting on the outside watching it, but they're coordinated. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, they're all playing nice together. So you have this United Arab Emirates, which has a collective association where they all have different strengths and weaknesses, but they're coming together. Abu Dhabi is really a lot more structured finance. In the U.S. parable, it's much more like a New York. Or if we go East Coast, Dubai to me is like a Miami. Abu Dhabi is like a New York or a Palm Beach per se. Sharjah might be like an Orlando. Again, I'm not making fun of anything. Just looking at the size and kind of what they do. So you've got the United Arab Emirates. Then over that, you've got the GCC. Now you have a Gulf Coast coordination. You've got a coordination of that region. You have something that Trump put in called the Abraham Accords. First time in history. Now you've got coordination across Israel and Jordan and Egypt and all of these different regions that have never really played nice together. Now you've got that coordination going on a little bigger block, and then you have Saudi, right? So if Dubai is like Miami and Abu Dhabi's like New York, Saudi's like the United States. And again, I mean that if you look at the size of Saudi, not only in terms of geographical size, but in terms of financial size and structure, it's a behemoth, and it's starting to open up. Culturally, it's opening up. Financially, it's opening up. They're looking at doing projects. If you look at what's going on at Jeddah and the Red Sea project, somebody had asked me, again, these are just sort of my own little insights. They said, oh, do you think Riyadh will compete with Dubai? And I was like, no, I don't think so at all. They're like, well, Saudi has so much more money. My personal opinion is I don't think Riyadh's going to be designed to try and compete with Dubai. I think Riyadh will end up more of a financial center, and it'll be beautiful. But when you look at Jeddah and the Red Sea project and all of that nature, in my opinion, over time, I think Jeddah and Saudi will become much more of a touristy service destination. You've got, the F1, Formula One. You have a lot more there in new infrastructure that makes it more like Dubai to me, where Riyadh, more of the financial center. But what's my point? As this region opens up, you now have a collective coordination of growth. And where does this region sit? It sits between MENA. Now you've got the Middle East, North Africa, Africa nation. You have $1 billion, or not $1 billion, a population of 1 billion people in Africa that is burgeoning. It's up and coming, the growth, the movement into middle class. Over here, you've got India, which is already 1 billion. So the GCC Gulf Coast Coordinated Region sits between two populations of 1 billion people. The service capabilities, the geographic, the construction, all of that positions them really, really, really well. And I laid that out. Well, what happened? Earlier this year, right? It's 2023 now. I got a call from the group and they said, oh, you're not going to believe this, because we had joked. We made a bet for $1, right? I said it was a US dollar, kind of like trading places. They called me and said the numbers are going to come out, and you were right. And I said, right on what? The UAE, I believe for Dubai, GCC, the UAE region, I believe their economic growth came in at 8%, 8.2. I could be wrong, but it was somewhere in there. Again, 6, 8, 10% growth. So my outlook 2024 is when you look at the GCC region, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Jordan, Oman, that whole area and region, I think is really going to be a high growth sector for money, infrastructure, government, sustainability. All of that is going to be fascinating. Number 2, I just mentioned sustainability at the end of that. We just left Dubai about a couple weeks ago for COP28. Fascinating. COP28, for those of you who don't know, United Nations, climate of the parties, all environmental. And we've moved heavily into green bonds. We have a company called Greenway Funding. Why is that important? Well, if you look across the spectrum, green bonds and blue bonds are basically infrastructure bonds to build things. It's not direct foreign investment. It's not DFI. It's not a country going in and investing in another country and owning that asset. Bonds are basically loans. They're debt structure. It's a difference between trying to get a mortgage on a house and having a partner on the house versus a bank that gives you a mortgage, you pay for the mortgage, and you own the house. Big, big difference between DFI, direct foreign investment, and financial investments or financial liquidity or structured investments or financial, instruments. What green bonds and blue bonds are going to do within the sustainability side is going to be massive. It's going to transform anywhere from 10 to 20 to $30 trillion of money is going to be mandated and moved across the channel between big financial institutions and governments, companies, and countries that need that kind of qualified financing to build projects. And these are all kinds of projects. We have some massive ones around the world: Indonesia, Bermuda, Colombia we're working on. And these will be big infrastructure projects: save the rainforest, redo water reclamation, deep sea ports. So this aspect of bond financing, green bonds and blue bonds, I really think is going to push the envelope. And it's different than ESG, quote, investing. And I get in trouble at times. People ask me, I'm not politically correct, I'm politically direct. I was on a panel in LA. It was during the Milk and Global Conference. And I was asked, oh, what do you think of ESG investing? I said, it doesn't work. Oh, well, what do you mean? There's so much money in ESG. And I backed up, and I like to put numbers around my controversial comments. I said, let's look at financing investing, number one. In my opinion, the US is the best infrastructure in the world for investing in a company and growing it to scale and exit, providing a return, right? If you're investing, the primary purpose of an investment is to generate a return. If it's just to generate a product that performs a function, then that's philanthropy. If you're looking for a return, then you need an investment that's going to generate a return. What's my point? 9 out of 10 investments in the US fail, full stop. So if you're an angel investor, you put money in, 9 out of 10 of your investments, unless you're Jason Calacanis and a couple of the smart guys who know what they're doing. Jason's got a great progress. I'm not making fun of him. His process is amazing. But historically, 9 out of 10 startups fail. So if you're looking at a 90% failure on startups and you're looking for an economic return, if you think going into a third-rate or third-world country, right? I saw somebody present, again, I'm not picking on anybody, but there was a solar tractor in Nigeria looking for investments. And I'm thinking, as an investor, if you think you're going to get an equitable return out of a solar tractor in another country, you're fooling yourself. And that's kind of my point. Not that ESG investing is bad, but investing is risky. Equity investing is risky. And when you start segmenting down to smaller and smaller subsets, and now you've got ESG, sustainable governance, in a sustainability channel in another country that doesn't have a predicated history of liquidity and exit and events for financial return, ESG investing is going to be a big challenge. My point of all that is green bonds and blue bonds is not investing, it's structured finance. It's bond financing, it's loans, not investments. So there is a difference. And we get caught up in that. Our company, again, is called Greenway Funding. We don't really do the funding. We help move the money. But people come to us at times and they try and convince us on what a great idea they have. And I look at them, I say, I don't care. And I don't mean that bad. It's like going to a bank and asking for a mortgage and trying to tell the banker how great your infinity pool is. Banker looks at your house and says, what's your house worth? Have you got all your certificates to make sure the house is sound? Your pest control, your roof, all of that. And can you pay the mortgage and the debt? They don't worry about how pretty the house is or what it does or how you might rent it out on the weekends. So bonds are structured financing, different than equity investing. I think there's a rule and a room and an opportunity for both. But this world of green bonds and blue bonds is really, really, really going to peak and grow. And it's already estimated to be between 10 and 30 trillion. I think it'll go north of 100 trillion. And that's why, again, I kind of jump all over. For those of you that follow me, people are like, oh, Stephen, why aren't you doing blockchain and Bitcoin anymore? Well, the whole blockchain Bitcoin industry is $1 trillion if you look at it in market cap. We moved into an area with green and blue bonds that is 10, 15, 20, 30 trillion on its way to 100. So I think this area of alternative financing under a sustainability moniker is really going to change the world. And what our goal with green bonds and Greenwave is not only to fund big projects, billion-dollar infrastructure, but then within there, play the entrepreneurial card, say, all right, if we're going in to help build a sustainable city that's a $5 billion project over 5 years, what new technologies can you put in there? What can we bring in that's sustainable or early? And I still want to play that entrepreneurial bridge to help early stage companies get funded, but we're not going to help get them funded through the equity side. We want to play the bridge over into the capital follows customer. and help early stage companies that are cool technologies, help them get traction on the customer side with top-down financing. Where does that fit in my outlook? Again, I think green bonds and blue bonds are going to be a massive, massive, massive financial industry. And again, this stuff, as you see, kind of flows when I do this properly. So part of the reason we got out of the crypto side is I think cryptocurrency is going to continue to flounder, kind of move around. Part of the reason is that people don't really know what cryptocurrency is. People ask me, "Oh, are you in crypto?" I'm like, "What does that mean?" Well, you don't know what it means. And again, it's like a great scene in the movie City of Angels, if anybody's seen that, where Meg Ryan's eating a pear and Nicolas Cage, who's the angel, says, "What's a pear taste like?" She goes, "You don't know what a pear tastes like?" He goes, "I don't know what it tastes like to you." What's my point? When people ask me what crypto is, I don't know what it means to them. So I'm like, well, what do you mean? How do you define it? Cryptocurrency to me, and all of you guys that have watched this for years know, to me, cryptocurrency mostly is a glorified penny stock. The majority of, quote, crypto that's out there is not a currency. You buy it at 10 cents because you want it to go to $1, not because you want to buy a cup of coffee. So if the regulators would have ever got their head around this properly and said, oh, if you're going to use crypto to raise money, let's put it over here under the Jobs Act. Let's count it like equity. Let's count it like, a security where you're using it to raise money. Great. It's like an OTC penny stock, but it's a pink or a gray, meaning it's highly risky, highly speculative, and it could go 10 cents to $1, but it could go 10 cents to zero. Let's just call the risk profile what it is. Now, there's other crypto that perform other functions. If you look at Ripple and what Circle's trying to do, it's the difference between a debit card, right? You put $1,000 in your bank with a debit card to buy a cup of coffee, or you put $100 million in your bank account and you Swift Fedwire ACH to buy a coffee company. Same money, different function, different rail, different transport. So if crypto had actually been defined as we did years ago under the function, not the name, all cryptocurrency is not equal. A debit card isn't equal to ACH. An ACH isn't equal to your Starbucks gift card, right? $100 in Starbucks is still a digital money with a digital wallet on my phone. Is it crypto? No, it's a gift card for Starbucks. So I think the challenge is crypto is going to continue to flounder because there's not clear definitions. It's all mangled and jumbled under there. And it's everything. Even in my last podcast was, central bank digital currencies. And I'm like, banks don't issue currencies. To think the CBDC is a bank currency, it's a central government currency that's going to be programmable. So again, where is all of this going? I think cryptocurrency is going to flounder just because the regulators can't get their heads around it. And I think until there's a distinction, Bitcoin to me has already hit its growth peak. People are like, oh, it's gone to 40. I think it's at 47,000 today. Okay, great. I looked at the numbers. That means it's up 3.5%. And then I looked at the number of stocks on the stock market in terms of the New York Stock Exchange, excuse me, and NASDAQ. I didn't look at OTC. There's 20, 30, 40 companies that are up 3, 5, 8% a day. So watching Bitcoin, the reason people get more excited about Bitcoin, they look at the price, not the percentage, right? Bitcoin's up $2,500 today. It's up $2,000. I'm like, yeah, great. It was 1.8%. Like we're caught up in the wrong thing. So Bitcoin to me is going to grow. I think it'll go 50. I think it'll go to 100. But right now at 47 to 100, that's less than 100% return. There's a bunch of other stocks, if you were on the NASDAQ and the OTC, that could do that kind of return or higher. They're all different risk profile, right? Different risk profile on a penny stock versus NASDAQ versus New York Stock Exchange. So when we look at that breakdown for 2024 and beyond, I just think cryptocurrency is going to continue to flounder. Bitcoin's going to go up some. I think it'll probably go to 60 and it's at 47 now. So if you look at it as a percentage return, 15, 18%, that's good. Depends on your risk profile. There's other things out there that are high risk, high reward, high return. Where does that lead us? Excuse me. Again, within there, the digital dollar, I believe the problem is the messaging. Again, this concept of a digital dollar is a misnomer. We already have digital dollars. Your debit card's digital. People are like, oh, Bitcoin's digital money. So is your debit card. No, that's money. I'm like, show me your money. Your debit card is digital. It just performs a different function. So the difference between a debit card with traditional cash, which is still digital, it's all digital money. The digital money isn't the issue. The difference between digital money on a debit card and digital money on a central bank digital currency, a CBDC, which should be called a CGDC, a central government digital currency. It's the government that's going to issue and control the currency, not the banks. Banks are repositories. A digital dollar is not a digital dollar, it's a programmable dollar. It's programmable money. And in my opinion, that's a problem. It's a problem because it gives governments total, complete control over every aspect of our lives. And I hear people talk about it all the time. You know, a lot of the pundits in the podcast, oh, well, the digital dollar, you can't do this. You can't. Here's how I think it's going to work. The digital dollar is, if a government wants you, we can pick some easy ones. Wants you to take a vaccine and you don't, they'll shut your money off until you do. Government's going to give you free health care. Great. They're going to decide you can't have ice cream because you're getting free health care and your, weight's too high. They don't want you to have more than one drink a week. You won't be able to do the things. The biggest one, going back to number 3, with Bitcoin, my friends are like, oh, well, I'll just take my money out and buy Bitcoin. Take your money out how? Oh, I'll take it out. If all your money is digital and programmable, there is no more legal tender currency. There is no more cash. It's gone. You won't have an option for Bitcoin. So maybe whatever Bitcoin happens to be already in the system could be moved around. But at that point, the governments could potentially shut down all the exchanges. They control the internet. So there's things that could be done that I think make a programmable dollar for civilization as a whole really, really, really a big problem. And if we don't watch it going into 2024 and 2025, it's going to be too late. And again, I've done a bunch of podcasts on this. I like doing it. Somebody's like, well, I don't know how they would ever get there. I do. It's 3 steps, real easy. Number 1, governments in the US or elsewhere, it's already happening. We're already the frog in the boiling water, right? Number 1, all paychecks no longer exist. And people are like, what do you mean? Well, direct deposit. Most of you, if you get a paycheck, get direct deposit. It's a benefit. Money's in your account. Fed now. It's faster, cheaper, safer. Your money's there. So step 1, direct deposit. No more paychecks. Step 2, they don't come after you, the individual, with your money. They go to the business, say you can no longer accept cash or currency. Why should you? Everything's on a debit card. Debit cards can do smaller transactions. For the consumer, it's a benefit. Why walk around with money? You could get robbed. It could get stolen. So they will eliminate the use of cash into businesses. And then step 3, once most cash is in the system, it'll switch from old fiat cash on ACH, Fedwire, the interchange systems, onto a programmable dollar. And that's how I think, we move down this world. So digital dollar to me doesn't make sense. It's fake news in the sense it's designed to fool you. Not that it's a lie. It's like magic. Don't look over here while we're pulling a rabbit out of the pocket. But I think digital dollars, programmable money, CBDCs will really become a problem in 2024, 25 if we don't watch. And then the last one, I'm kind of afraid to go through this, but watching America, man, America is really in a decline right now. And I know it might upset some people. I like being positive. I've got, I like the outcomes, but when you watch what's going on with immigration and the border and taxes and debt and just the pure division of the political divide within the country, it's really, really, really an issue. And for me, this is, again, my opinion. I blame the press. When Donald Trump used to say the press is the enemy of the people, boy, I'm right along, the lines. Now, again, don't come after me. Oh, you love Trump. I've watched the press be so deceptive in their messaging and so just inauthentic and just unbelievable in the derision and division that's being created, it's really creating an issue that I'm kind of afraid of where we are within a lot of things. I live a lot of times in California. I live in Beverly Hills, 90210, right? I'm in one of the best zip codes in the world. And during COVID, it was pretty challenging. A lot of the again, not picking sides, this is reality. This is politically direct, not correct. The homeless that got moved in, the transients that got put into some of the hotels here, just really created problems within the neighborhood. I got assaulted in a park in Beverly Hills, 90210. Like, this stuff never used to happen. And if you bring it up and talk about it, you're accused of one ism or another. The reality is, when you look at America, there's a lot of things that are going on in a decline that are really, really, really concerning. And so again, when I started with number one, I started looking at the UAE GCC, going, wow, you've got a high growth area, you've got low crime, you've got all of this infrastructure, you've got governments that are working together and coordinated. Then you've got this growth within the sustainability area that I think is fascinating. You've got a change in cryptocurrency, you've got a digital dollar, and you've got the concerns with America. Those are my 2024 outlooks. They aren't all predictions. Some of them, again, IMHO, right? In my humble opinion, or in my honest opinion, as it were, those are sort of my insights. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, sometimes these things make sense. Sometimes they ramble. A lot of times I like putting this information out there where we can look back a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years ago and say, oh, I said that, right? One of them that comes up, again, as I wrap up here, I talk about, I wish it had happened. It's finally getting closer. I wrote something in, I think, 2017 against Elon Musk, not against him. I love Elon from all the way back to X Bank and the X days. But this idea of electric vehicles, I don't think is going to happen. I think solar vehicles will surpass EVs. These are, again, some of my smaller predictions. The idea of doing an electric vehicle with batteries that have to be mined in third world countries, other than the lithium we supposedly found in the US, charging stations, new infrastructure. I just think there's a lot of problems with electric vehicles, regardless of the promise of what they're supposed to do. I love the concept of solar mobility, the Apteras of the world, right? Here's a solar car, 1,300 miles on a full solar charge. No EV, no battery, no lithium, no mining, no charging station, no sitting there for an hour fighting over cars and people. Basically, I think EVs probably aren't going to make it. I think solar vehicles will surpass it. Autonomous vehicles, I don't think will be here. Again, I've been writing about it for a while. I love the concept of the autonomous taxi, flying taxis, not self-flying, not us flying everywhere, but autonomous, like a bus stop. I wrote on this years ago. There should be a taxi that lands, if we talk Beverly Hills, you should be able to land a taxi on top of the parking lot in downtown Santa Monica and have it on a route and a time like a bus stop, right? This taxi at this time is going from Santa Monica to the Staples Center downtown, and they'll leave at a certain time, certain number of seats. It'll fly out over the I-10 highway. So you've got all the air rights, and it'll go from Santa Monica straight out over I-10 down, land at Santa Monica or land at Staples Center. An autonomous point-to-point self-flying taxi takes care of so many issues. You don't have multiple cars on the road. You don't have the concern, right? Autonomous vehicles going 90 miles an hour in a fast lane. When you've got the 405 in LA at a full stop, you can't get cars in and out of an autonomous lane. You can't add more lanes. You can't bore more tunnels underground. That's what I wrote against Elon about his boring project. In the air, in the sky, you can add another lane in the air. You don't have stop signs. You don't have intersections because you're on multiple planes. So you finally have things like Joby. Some of these autonomous taxis are coming on. I wish they would have come here quicker, but I think autonomous flying taxis are going to solve a lot of problems with cars, pollution, land, things like that. So those are a couple of my kind of giveaways. Right on time here. I love it. 30 minutes in. Steve and me, the Bullseye Guy podcast. Thanks for joining. See you soon.